Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an episode of the Kings of Queen City podcast. I'm Eli with Jake and Scott, and this is going to be our first episode on YouTube while also doing our audio version. So hopefully you guys check in one of those facets. If you're listening to me, you obviously have. So thank you guys for tuning in. And the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is something that, again, I don't even think Scott predicted at the beginning of the year. We were all pretty optimistic about it, but man, it's really wild to see the team have come this far, especially from we were pretty optimistic. I predicted 9-8 at the beginning of the year, especially halfway through. We all were thinking playoffs, and just to see them in the Super Bowl right now is pretty incredible. They fought back against the Chiefs, overcame 18-point deficit, which is insane to do in the playoffs, especially in the AFC Championship, especially against the Chiefs. And I'm just really happy for the city. I'm happy for the team. I'm happy for everybody, and especially the fans.
Yeah, and I think it's just crazy to see how far they've come. You think about where they started this year with Burrow coming back and really not having a full training camp. He never had a full off season. You think about the ups and downs, losing to the Jets. You also think about losing to the Chargers in December. That you just have to think about how crazy it is that they've overcome so much, and they have it. And it feels like we've been rewarded for everything. There's times I can remember where we've sat in that stadium and you don't even remember any of the game because you just sat there and talked with everybody. From 2016 to 2019, that's just how it was. And these last few days, I've been thinking about my favorite memories from the last 7 or 8 seasons since we've been going. And it's just really cool to kind of think back, but it's just full circle, how cool it really is.
Yeah, I mean, look back to just even a couple months ago, there was this big national narrative where Jamar Chase stinks and was a bust because he couldn't catch a pass in the preseason. There was a huge narrative of about a little less than 2 years ago now where Joe Burrow should go to Miami because it's a better ran organization. Well, yeah, I'm not sure about that one, but they've been doubted for so long, and then it's overnight they kind of became a media darling. Coming into the year, people were like, Burrow, he's probably ruined. Or at best he'll be bad this year in the rookie or in the sophomore slump and coming off an injury, and it's just it's almost like after that Raiders game, kind of overnight, the narrative of the Cincinnati Bengals completely changed.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see how everything has changed. It reminds me of the sign guy at the Bengals Stadium. One of his signs was national media darlings to be or whatever. And it really seems like it's come that way. I feel like a lot of people have embraced the Bengals, especially this last week because you're playing the Chiefs, where not a lot of people like whatever's going on with the Chiefs. It's not really Mahomes thing, but people that are surrounding him. People don't like that. And I mean, when you're the best, you're going to get everybody's best shot. So nobody likes a winner when you see them so often. That's happened with Patriots. But yeah, the narrative has switched a ton, especially for me. The biggest change over the whole season has definitely been Burrow's play because of the first month. I remember Scott, especially with how optimistic he was, Scott was a little scared for a little bit. I remember after the Bears game, Scott, we had a few conversations off air and stuff where we were talking about how it's not a concern yet, but if it would keep going that way, it would become a concern. But I think it was after week 12 or 13 on, he's been on an absolute tear, and it's been awesome to see that.
Yeah, it's just been crazy to see. It feels like this season was played almost in thirds. You got the first third of the season, which you saw the potential, and then kind of in that middle third was where I think after the Ravens game was where you started to question some things. Maybe this isn't really the season that, maybe it's next season is what I'm kind of trying to say. And then at the end of the year, after kind of that Denver game, you kind of think, is this team for real? Is this team going to make some noise? And you look at it now, they haven't lost since before Christmas, really. The Browns game doesn't matter. It's just insane to see how far this team has come in just this season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, just go to the second half of the season, we got our asses handed to us by the Browns, and then went into the bye. And after that, it was just I think losing a game in that manner really helped this team to the fact of, hey, that's not going to happen again. And they started rattling off wins. Their losses after the bye were the Browns at the end of the year when they didn't play anyone, so like who cares? And then it was the Chargers game where they're down 1,000,000 points in the first quarter, come back, look like they're about to take the lead, and then it just all falls apart again. And the Niners game where we spotted them how many points off special teams blunders. So really, like, this team has been really good since the bye, and people just were like yet to notice it. Like, even going into this game, that was a false loss for the Chiefs. That, like, they'll be fine as long as they don't take 10 penalties. They'll beat them easily. And it's just like, if you weren't watching this team, you couldn't see it. But yeah, like, if you've watched this team all year, like, it is different. There are special things about this team.
Yeah, the way you described it, Jake, I love that, where you said it was kind of the three quarters, and it was definitely in waves. Like the first half of the season, you were definitely on the positive. I mean, you start really hot with the Vikings win. Bears, you take that dip. Jags, Steelers, you go up. Packers, you kind of go down a little bit, but that's an okay loss, whatever. You have the Lions game, which is fine. You beat up on the Lions. Ravens, you're sky high, then you fall back to earth with the Jets. Like, it is crazy. It was very up and down, very roller coaster at times, because I mean, the team, it did take them a while to win 3 straight games. That was tough. So I think that plays a big part in it. So you see that up and down, but it's awesome to see what they've been able to pull off this year and accomplish. So let's go our way into the game now. The Bengals win 27-24 against the Chiefs. I mean, starting off 21-3 against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship is probably at the top of the list of disaster situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the headline here is, Lou, you crazy son of a bitch, you did it again. He came up. I don't think his plan in the first half was bad. You know, they had a few shot plays, but really, I thought the Chiefs came out and Mahomes played a perfect half. I mean, he was tremendous. And to come out with a completely different game plan in the second half on one of the biggest stages in football takes some absolute balls. I mean, he could have just said, we're sticking with this and we'll see what happens. And instead, the urgency was there that they had to change something up. And it's so cool. Just so many guys stepped up in that second half. I mean, I forget who tweeted it, but someone said that they thought almost every player had a big play. And I agree with that. I mean, that is a very true statement, and just an unbelievable game plan by Lou.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Anarumo, he does it again. Like, he held the Chiefs to 3 points in the second half again. Like, when has that ever happened? Like, that it sounds unreal. But I mean, yeah, the defense was awesome. He came up with a new plan that really worked. I mean, and it's just, yeah, every guy made a play. Like, the greatest trade in Bengals history, getting BJ Hill and a 7th for Billy Price. BJ Hill has a game-changing interception, because that's exactly what we all thought. Patrick Mahomes is going to give one to BJ Hill. Like, who didn't see that one coming?
Yeah, I can't say it better. Just everybody on defense made a play. I mean, Eli Apple saves what would have been the Chiefs going up 28-3 right before the half. Pretty much what starts the whole game change. I mean, you have the drive out of, I think it was the first drive the Chiefs had out of the second half. You have Trey Flowers with a huge pass breakup on Travis Kelce to stop him. I mean, Trent Taylor on special teams and on the 2-point conversion has some crazy plays, not on the defense side of the ball. Like, it's just crazy that everybody on the team stepped up. I mean, if you're going to talk about a negative, we can get into that later with like the right guard situation, but we'll hit on that later. But especially on the defense side of the ball, there was not like a weak link. There wasn't somebody who didn't do their part. Like, everybody played their role and did it to perfection.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I think Sam Hubbard, may have played his best game as a Bengal, honestly. It's just an incredible game. He has been on fire these last 2 weeks. You can look at some of the plays he made against the Titans and say, he was one of the most important guys. You can look at, Sunday and say he was one of the most important guys. without him and, the way he stepped up at the end, I don't know. I don't know what the end looks like. He was truly, he's just so versatile, honestly. You see him do a little bit of everything. He's not the greatest pass rusher. He just does everything well. He doesn't, he's just not there isn't really a weak link to his game. You could say the pass rush, but he just embodies kind of what Lou Anarumo wants out of that defense, and that's versatility.
Yeah, I mean, the whole defense is pretty much built on being like versatile. Like look at all the moves that this defense made in the last, last offseason. Like you bring in, we've brought in pretty much just veterans that have done it before that can serve multiple purposes. Like you bring in Trey Hendrickson, a veteran that has experience playing in big time games. You bring in Mike Hilton, a veteran who can do multiple things from a slot cornerback position. So he gives you another element to that defense, and he's played in big games. Like it's just every move they made was on the defense was built to, have a veteran presence, veteran captain type presence, and then it's the opposite of the offense, where the offense is all the young guns. The defense is definitely more of was a more proven unit in the league coming into the year, and I mean, like Duke Tobin turned into King Midas this offseason. Like every single possible move the Bengals like could have made and did make, like worked out probably better than anyone could have like even hoped for. It's like every single thing they did all offseason just ended up being money.
The way Scott described the offense and defense was perfect. The defense was definitely, you had the pieces that were more proven. They had the experience in the league. You had guys who had a playoff experience. And there was the question of, you didn't know how they were going to fit together, how they were going to work. And this playoff run kind of shows you the epitome of that. They've been doing what they've wanted to do. I mean, the first game, you win ugly against the Raiders, wasn't a great one. And then you have a game with the Chiefs and the Titans that are pretty much two polar opposites of offenses that this team besides the first half against shut down. I mean, against the Titans, you're getting told all week they're going to run all over you. And I mean, it makes it seem like the entire world's never heard of DJ Reader. So, and Sam Hubbard, both are incredible run defenders. They have their way against the Titans, and then against the Chiefs, it's so nobody can slow down the Chiefs, as if they didn't do that. And it's hilarious that it's also 3 points in the second half in both games that they played, but they do the same thing here where they just completely shut down their offensive like air raid that no one can do. And it's incredible what they've done in this postseason stretch.
Yeah, just quickly about this defense. Like the last two games, like we saw this defense have a great game running almost six defensive linemen every play, like a 5-6 man front every single play. And then you turn around and they play debatably the best half a defense has ever played versus Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the biggest spot imaginable. And they do that by, I mean, it felt like a majority of plays we ended up dropping 8. It's like the two polar opposite styles of defense, and they did it successfully on both versus two like good offenses.
Yeah, and they just find ways to win. And that's all you really have to do in the playoffs. And it hasn't been pretty. I wouldn't call any of their wins in the playoffs pretty at all. Maybe the second half of the Chiefs game was pretty. But, that's just what you have to do. And they've grinded out a bunch of wins. You look back, that's all they've done, really, other than, the Ravens game where they absolutely just boat raced them. But, it's just impressive to see. And you've never really seen this. I can't remember any real Bengals teams that have done this. And so it's just so impressive. And again, I think it's the culture that they've bought into. And I think it's crazy to say, because if you would have thought a year ago we'd be saying this, we would have probably all called each other insane. But they just do a great job playing together. And I honestly, truly think that's why they're pulling out these wins.
Yeah, like people, I mean, what's the old mantra that always holds true is defense wins championships. Like, look at all 3 of these playoff games. The last play this defense had in all 3 games was an interception. I mean, turnovers are better than gold in the playoffs. this defense has just been opportunistic, and we saw it pretty much the majority of the year, but playoffs included. Like whenever this team just needs a play from the defense, the defense holds and finds a way to get it for them.
Yeah, it's so just going back to what Jake said. If you would have said this like last year, nobody would have believed you, because now you're talking about a team that arguably has the best locker room culture in the NFL, just because of the way guys talk about each other. And I'm not sure if it was last year, the year before, there was literally not a hit piece, but a piece written about how bad the locker room culture was. I mean, yeah, it was the holdover from what was left with Marvin, but like, it's crazy to see the complete 180 you've seen in about a year. It's nuts where these guys, you can tell the way they play for each other. Like this isn't, they don't care what other people think. They don't care about the noise. They are playing for each other. And especially on the defense side of the ball, you've seen it. And I mean, I would say you haven't seen the offense play very well in this playoff run. And I don't think that's a terrible thing to say. I mean, they just haven't gotten the plays they like. They're winning ugly. And I mean, that's what matters. But they're playing for each other, and it's pretty incredible to see. And it gives me a lot of bright outlook on the future because of how defensively they're winning these games, and their offense hasn't even had their best game yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the offense, I guess we'll just kind of a little transition into that. It's not pretty. It hasn't been pretty. And I think we all thought, if they're going to make this big playoff run, it's going to be because they play great on offense. They really haven't. But again, and they just do what they have to do to win. It felt like it was big third down catch after big third down catch. The one that really sticks in my mind was a T. Higgins. It might have been like a comeback, but anyways, he goes up and gets it. Like he literally, the ball's by him and he catches it. It's just insane. And that's just what you have to do. You have to make those plays in those spots. And I don't think we're really realizing how good T was on Sunday. I feel like he's a little, overshadowed, but it felt like when, they needed that third down, it was either him or Tyler Boyd. And it was just really, really good to see, honestly, just to see someone else really stepping up.
Yeah. I mean, this team in general all year, or like especially in the playoffs, like it's been who's the guy that steps up that like no one saw coming. Like in this game, he had some plays that weren't great, but like who in the right mind thought Samaje Perine going for a 40-yard touchdown on a screen? It's like all over this team. There's guys like it's just guys stepping up, and it's a special thing to see because when you get that, you got a real shot to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, and hitting on what Jake said about T. Higgins, I feel like he has the quietest 100-yard games ever. Like you just look up and the guy is 1 of 6. It's crazy. I mean, he had an incredible game offensively. I think it sounds so cliche. I don't think it was Joe Burrow's best game, but it was one of his most impressive. Just with his pocket awareness, you saw kind of those vintage flashbacks to LSU Joe when he's escaping Chris Jones on the one play where I'm screaming my head off to get rid of the ball. He gets out of it, and then I felt like Zach Taylor last year in the Titans game when he was telling him to throw it away, and then he throws that ball to T for completion or whatever. And he just makes something happen. And he did it again on another third down where he just ran up the gut for 11. I mean, Joe had a good game. I mean, besides that ball that he kind of forces gets picked off. I mean, the running game has been hit or miss, but it's been really nice to see Joe again just step up when it matters the most. He doesn't have the sexy like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, but he gets it done in the playoffs. And he has a huge play to Jamar in the Titans game where he sets you up in field goal game to win the game. I mean, he just makes the big plays when it matters.
Yeah, and he's clutch. I mean, that's all there is to it. But we knew that. He's been doing that his entire life. And it's just so impressive to see, he doesn't give a shit that his line is awful. He just doesn't. Like he makes the plays and he overcomes it. Remember, back in the Andy Dalton days, that was our big thing we said, good players overcome these types of things. And we're literally seeing like this is exactly what we wanted and what we talked about having. And it's just insane. And again, the stats aren't, sexy like Eli was saying, But again, he's making the big plays. He's getting the third down runs. And didn't he joke and say that he had to have like 100 yards or something with Zach? And it's
Yeah.
just funny that, a couple of their biggest plays on offense are him running the ball. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow is like if you could build in a lab what you want your franchise quarterback to be, like what you want him to be, whatever comes out, like it's gonna be very similar to Joe Burrow. He's I mean, like way beyond his like years in like football IQ and like just processing the game, which is still I think might be the best thing about his game. But yeah, like he's just the guy. Like I was talking like with buddies like or even earlier in the year that like aren't Bengals fans, and they look at his stats or they're like like he's not that good. You're overrating him. It's like he's one of those players you kind of have to watch him to just like fully understand it, because like his numbers in the playoffs haven't been light the world on fire good. Like he has 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Like they're not light the fire. This is the best quarterback in the league. But you watch him and it just he does things that you don't expect. Like he makes plays where you're just like holy cow. Like how did that happen? How does he do this? And then I think another thing is the Chiefs have almost like broken people's brains to a point where like the league has become an offensive league completely, but like it's the now like there's expectations about how often you score. Like look at like most Super Bowl teams, like the Chiefs have, as great as that offense has been, they got their one, but like look at like the Tom Brady blueprint. Like you had a great quarterback, the offense did what it needed to do, and the defense made big plays in big moments. Like teams aren't scoring 40 in the playoffs. Like these teams are playoff teams too. You're not playing the Jaguars. Like they step up. So I think it's people almost like expected those his last run of the year to be what you see in the playoffs, where it's not really fair. But I mean, yeah, there's an argument to be had. He's playing his debatably his best ball. Like he's finding ways to make plays when there's not much there.
I think one of the underrated parts of the game on Sunday was the fact that the offensive line wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst we've seen. I mean, it's kind of hard to be worse than 9 sacks in a playoff game. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. And they only let up 1 sack, which is really good for them. I mean, obviously he had to be evasive. That it wasn't great, but all in all, I mean, when you have a guy like Joe Burrow, it's kind of the argument that I always think about is just when people talk about how good Russell Wilson was when he started, it's they never had the offensive line and he always would just push them there. And it kind of gives me shades of that. I mean, they're pretty different players in terms of anything else, but they both had really bad offensive lines early and they just kind of make do and make it happen. And in that I see a lot of parallels, and the line wasn't great. I don't think it was like Tennessee where it kind of ruined their entire game plan. I don't think play calling was awesome on Sunday, but I think it was enough to get the job done. And I don't think the offensive line had a huge impact on Sunday, but I do think it affected what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think they've had a good enough scheme to kind of, be able to get some guys in space. They really haven't been taking any of the shot plays. I wouldn't consider that drive when they got down there and kicked that first field goal, shot plays, but it kind of showed you that they weren't going to get the calls and that they were probably going to be really handsy anytime it was a go route or anything. So I was cool with it. But, with the line being like that, I think they've done everything they can. And Zach has done a good job scheming it up to get guys in space and, taking away the weakness. I think that 9 sacks in a game is almost a fluke. Like at times, all their pressures hit. So we weren't going to see that. But, again, I know I've said it a bunch. The offensive line just did what they had to do to give Joe at least a chance. And that is all he really needs.
Yeah, like so the one thing that almost kind of got lost was, I mean, it was like the Bengals offensive line's so terrible. Like they gave up 9 sacks. Like, yeah, that's not good. But like it kind of got lost in the shuffle just how good Tennessee's like defensive front is. Like they have a very good front four. Like, they were going to get pressure. And then, like, all week you hear how the Chiefs are going to get tons of pressure on us. Like, I didn't see it. They didn't wreck us with their D line in the first matchup. Like, they don't have the guys Tennessee does. So the other one with the O line is, like, obviously it's the standout point for next season. That's like fine and dandy. I see people talking about it though, and it's like, who cares? Like, we're playing in the Super Bowl. Who cares about how we're gonna fix the offensive line in the offseason? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, that's a month from now problem. So, like, this coming into this season, we're like, we need the offensive line to just take the step and become serviceable, become not a bottom 10 O line. Like, just be able to not completely wreck games to where we can't win. And I mean, the offensive line in general has kind of done what we asked it to. Like, it has improved. It's gotten better. It's nowhere near perfect, but like, they are playing better, and it's like, you know, it, it like that's about all you can ask for this O line. Like, they played their tails off versus the Chiefs, and they did what you asked them to. Like, they're gonna have slip ups and stuff, but like, just keep battling and be tough, and that's kind of what we've seen them do.
I always thought going into this Chiefs game that people were a little too high on the Chiefs defensive line and a little too low on the Titans. Like, kind of what Scott said there. The defensive line for the Titans, they've got dogs on that line, and kind of what you said, Jake. All of their pressure hit. Well, you weren't going to see it again because they just had a great scheme in it, and it hit for them every time they needed it to. And so, kind of as we move forward, I just wanted to like take a second to say, like, what does the win mean to like you guys as fans? Because I think that's the cool part of this. Like, as much as we like to talk about like the X's and O's and stuff like that, like at the end of the day, we're fans because we love the team and love the city. So what does it mean for you guys?
I think we've been rewarded for all those years. All the years that, we claimed that Mike Brown was cheap, or that, this team wasn't trying, stuff like that. You show up to, we've gone to pretty much every single game since 2015. We've been through like the hardest games. 2019, where we sat there went nuts for an 0-11 win against the Jets. It's just really cool. And, like you said, like, we love this city. I love Cincinnati. I really do. And it just means a ton. And you think about like all of your friends. Like, I immediately, after they won, like, I thought of you guys and like how cool it is that this is a season that we're going to get to go watch a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just so, like, you're so happy for, like, all us Bengals fans. Just like, you know, like, we've kind of been the butt of the joke like our entire lives. Like, just, it wears on you, and then you have, just like something like this happens. Like, you see it on everyone's faces, just like how excited people are about this team. Like, how exciting it is to, be in these moments. Like, the game ended, and the first thing I did is like a group of probably like a group of like six of my like great buddies from like high school, and like, we're still great friends. Like, we're in a group chat where, we've been talking all game and stuff, and we're FaceTiming right after the kick. And my buddy Mark, who you guys know, he was there. So he's on FaceTime and like with us, and he's there, and we're all just going nuts in our houses. Like, we're watching him and his family go crazy at Arrowhead. And like, I mean, it's such a cool thing, like, we're always optimistic, but like, there's definitely parts of all of us that, wouldn't have been surprised if you told us like we were never going to see something like this. So it's just such a cool thing to experience and see the joy it's brought to everybody. I mean, people we didn't even know were Bengals fans are living and dying with every snap of this team now. It's been an awesome thing to see.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest part about sports in general, is just the way that you build a community and you see people. And like, that's, I think my favorite part about the games is getting to tailgate with everybody and just be able to hang out and the friendships you make from it. And I definitely think Cincinnati's special in that way, where I don't think a lot of teams have a community like Bengals fans do. And they've definitely, I think Jake and I talked about it for a while. It's a misery loves company thing, where in the down years, that's how you make it through, is because you're seeing friends, you get to meet new people and stuff like that. And obviously me, I have a different story than you guys. Like my dad and uncle have been season ticket holders for 31 years. Like they've raised me on the team. So obviously for me, it means a lot just seeing it through them, because as Jake will tell you, they're almost like nauseously optimistic. When we were terrible and we knew we were going to be terrible, they would come to every game like expecting and hoping to win, and we'd be like, it's funny. And you just love to see it for guys like that, for me, because you have these old fans that haven't gotten to see a Super Bowl win and haven't got to see this run. And I mean, when you're talking about fans like us, people our age, we've never seen a success like this for any of our teams. And it means a lot to see everybody come together as a community, and to see everybody support and come together for one cause is really awesome to see.
And another thing, Big Cat talked about this, but I was thinking, I literally said this on Sunday before the game. I was like, usually January is a real shitty month. It's usually really cold and really boring. And then I looked up and I'm like, oh, the month's almost over. Like, it's unbelievable. It's awesome. Like, it's just a lot of fun. And I got to watch it at a bar in Clifton. Like, it's so cool to see everybody just go nuts, and how much everybody is just invested into this team. And it goes to show, I'll never gatekeep fandom. It's just not who I am. I don't care. Like, some people care more about it than others. It is what it is. But there are a lot of people that really do like this team, whether or not they're the person on Twitter saying that they love it when, you're winning 2 games in a season or not, it doesn't matter. But Cincinnati has a great fan base, and there's no denying that.
Yeah, I mean, nationally, no one would have said we had a fan base like worth a damn, because like, the success wasn't there. You never got to see it, but like all of us, like we kind of knew like this fan base it is like really good. Like they're really rabid. They love this team, but after so long, like it just was a thing where you saw people just like, I can't go through this anymore, what have you. But I mean, just to like see the happiness that this team's brought people, like, or like, I can't even wrap my head around it. Like there's probably a lot of people out there now, they're like, for lack of a better word, like bandwagoning the Bengals. Like we're gonna have fans that aren't really from Cincinnati with no connection. Like you never thought we would have seen something like that. Like one of my best friends from college like became a Bengals fan this year, because like we spent all like quarantine and stuff watching. I'd be watching Bengals highlights and making them watch them with me, and like doing all this stuff. And it's also crazy too when like I think about that, and it's like, look at everything we've seen our whole life and like what we've been through, and now like this is his first year and this is what he sees. It's like it's crazy to see how stark a difference that is.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. That's been my favorite part, I think, of the whole run and everything, is seeing the reactions that people have, where they record themselves and stuff. My favorite one ever was seeing like a bunch of, it was probably kids, maybe like from ages like 12 to 15. And they're like, we're celebrating after the Raiders game. And that just like struck a chord with me, because like I remember when we were 15 and 16, we were driving home from the stadium in borderline tears from the Steelers game. And just to see these people have these like awesome experiences, like it's like core memory stuff, the stuff you take with you for the rest of your life. And it's just awesome to see the fans be able to finally do this and get this kind of success and happiness from the team. Is awesome to see. But let's kind of get into our winners and losers now. We'll go this a little bit quicker because we did hit on a lot of these guys already. But I said the biggest winner of the game, in my opinion, was Lou Anarumo. I mean, Jake and I, for a while last season, were cursing his name a little bit, and I would be the first to say it. I look like an idiot. This guy is a borderline mastermind with the stuff he comes up with, especially against the Chiefs. I mean, it's crazy. I just don't know how he does it. To be able to hold the Chiefs to 6 points in 2 combined second halves when you need to. Like, this isn't just random throwaway games when you're facing like the Jets and the Jets are playing them for some random time and the Jets hold them to 3. Like, these are games you have to win. One was to win the division, the other is to win the conference. And he deserves all the credit in the world.
Yeah, and I have Lou too, just for the sake of this. I'll pick Zach. I think he stuck with it. He stuck with his vision, and I guess even bigger than Lou Anarumo, he believed in Lou, and it's crazy. It is insane that they had won like 8 combined games, or not. You like 6. It was 6. They had won
Yep.
6 combined games, and to believe in that vision is just it's insanity. I mean, we were ready to blow it up. I was ready to blow it up. I was, saying it was a failure, but they keep trudging along. And if anybody deserves it, like nobody deserves it more than Zach Taylor, honestly. He was he went from most likely to be fired to most likely to win Coach of the Year, which there's no way that's ever happened. And if it has, then good for that coach. But just, I know this is going to sound crazy, but we're the Cinderella story. And, we really are, from worst to first. It's really happening.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go on a tyrant or just tangent, and I'm gonna go snake draft rules and take 2 so I don't get stuck with the last pick. But I mean, it's got to be Joe Burrow. Like everything changed as soon as we got Joe Burrow. Like we've never seen a guy be able to do this in Cincinnati. Like it's so fun to watch him. It's so special. Like you can just see it. Like he represents what it is. Like he represents kind of what Cincinnati is and wants to be. Like he's just he's the perfect guy for this team, and what he's done has been nothing short of remarkable. And then the other one is I'll give it to Shooter. Like I mean, he's probably going to break Vinatieri's record for most field goals in a playoff, like ever. Like in one specific instance of like a playoff run, the record's 13 for Vinatieri, and he has 12. So two field goals breaks it. Like this kid's a rookie, and I mean, he might have the best kicking playoffs ever. Like the kid's just nails. It's insanity to see. Like we all know how we felt last season. Like Fat Randy would walk up and we'd be like, "Well, this is going to be a disaster." And I mean, he goes out for game winners, and like it's not like this nervous pit in your stomach. Oh, the world's about to crumble here. It's this nervous excitement of this is Evan McPherson. Like he's going to bury it again.
Yeah, Evan, he's been absolutely incredible. The other player I had, but we already talked about, so it's just going to be quick. T. Higgins, I said he always has the quietest 100-yard games you've ever seen. Another huge one to me is Jesse Bates. I mean, the stretch he's had in the postseason has been absolutely incredible. I mean, every time they need a big play, he's there. He's had a great coverage grade, which is kind of what we've been missing out of the regular season Jesse Bates this year. But ever since we got in the playoffs, he stepped it up. He makes the biggest play of the game when he pretty much tips it out of Tyreek's hand. And Big Cat also said that it looked like he was attempting to hit it to Bates. Or no, I think that was Pat McAfee was talking about it. And he said it looks like he goes to hit it. And when he hits it, it looks like he's trying to get it to Von Bell. And I think he was. And I mean, if for me, I think he's earned a blank check this offseason. I mean, just give him whatever he wants. He deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. He has just been we said it last week, but he has been just a different player since the playoffs have started. And yeah, I think this is probably the guy you'll see if they give him the check. I think he was just kind of playing. He was trying to be perfect, and now he can just play. If you lose, you're out, and so he's just playing as hard as he can, and he's definitely earned it. And I think he was quietly having a great game, and then he just comes up with one of the biggest plays on defense at the end. So yeah, and again, I know I said it earlier, so I won't hit it again, but I think Sam Hubbard deserves a lot of credit too. Just the way he kind of did on that last drive, being able to rush the passer, spy the quarterback, just did a lot of things really well.
Yeah, I mean, like, it also feels like you could just point to any player on this team, like, just scroll down the roster and put your finger on someone, and we can talk about how they made a play that was absolutely instrumental in this team. Like, I think the biggest winner out of everything though, and we have touched about it, like I just think it's the city of Cincinnati. Like us fans, we deserve this. Like we've waited long enough. This is a deserved thing for this city and this fan base, and it's nice to experience it in all its glory.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end off the winners. The only loser I had was really the right guard position, and it's not something I'm going to hit on a ton. But I do think it's worth noting. I think Hakeem Denji had a really rough game, ended up getting pulled for Carmen. I've been on the Carmen train since the beginning of the year. I think he's got a lot of he's raw, but he's got a lot of tools. You see him make plays. I mean, in the screen game, he has the seal that pretty much lets P Ryan jump off. And in the second half, they have a screen that probably goes for a touchdown if P Ryan doesn't go to the left. Should have gone to the right, but kind of busted play. But yeah, the right guard was definitely the weakest position on the line of the day, and I think it's definitely something you got to look forward to, especially since you're playing the Rams. I mean, you got Aaron Donald, so they got to figure it out. Personally, I like Carmen more in that situation. Carmen, I think, is stronger and more athletic than Hakeem, and I think that's kind of what you need to face a guy like Donald. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that matchup plays out.
Yeah, at times you wish you could kind of combine them.
For
Um,
sure.
because Hakeem's maybe a little more consistent, but he doesn't have like the big plays. And when he's bad, he's really, really bad. And same with Carmen. When they're bad, they're really, really bad. And I was thinking about that the other day. If you could just combine them, you'd have a pretty serviceable guard. And I think we're gonna see that out of Carmen at some time. But again, you just have to learn how to deal with it. And I don't think we're going to see what we saw. We might see what we saw on Sunday, but again, we all know that they're not going to be this elite level guard. They are who they are, and sure. I guess they're the losers of the team, but they're just playing their game and they're doing what they can with what they have. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets lost in the shuffle of it all. Like people don't remember like Carmen nor Adeniji are guards. Like they weren't guards in college. This is they've had to adjust kind of on the fly to a new position. I mean that doesn't go perfectly. Like there's going to be struggles. Aaron Donald's an absolute freak. So like yeah, we'll have to figure out something there. But I mean it's been it'll end up being the same problem they've had to deal with all year at that spot almost. So I'm not like crazy worried about it in general. Like I'm maybe a little more worried than I am in a normal game, but like we haven't gone into a game feeling, like right guard's gonna be fine today, So it, eh, we'll see.
Yeah, so that's kind of our winners and losers from the game. So I want to take this part before we get into a little short outlook of the Bengals Rams Super Bowl. We're going to do a bigger episode on that next week. We're going to watch a little bit of film. So we'll just have a little one at the end of that. But I kind of wanted to ask you guys, is there a game or situation where you kind of look back through the regular season, and it could be the postseason, but you look at what game or plays kind of define this team in your eyes? What are the plays or games that jump out to you?
so earlier when I talked about how the season was in thirds, there's a couple. There's I picked a game from basically almost each third of what I thought was what I was talking about. So the first game is Green Bay. I thought that was the game where they showed you, hey, we can hang with the best right now. Like we are going to be like we're not here to just think about next year. Like this could be a year where you make a run. So that was the first game. And then from the second third, I have basically San Francisco. You could make a case that it's kind of like the back third, but it's kind of right there on the edge. Um, that's the game where I think the script flipped. I think that was at the end of where we questioned the team, and then right after that, Zach makes the change to basically say, you know what, Joe Burrow, you're gonna win us. You're gonna win us all these games. You're gonna take us to the playoffs. And then lastly, the game that I think has a bunch to say is the Kansas City one. That's when they're for real. That's when you start to believe. And also I don't think people realize how big the Broncos win was. That was the beginning of the not sexy wins, just getting it done. So those are kind of the games I've really been thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on about this for days. I'll pick a weird one. I'll say week one, Minnesota. I mean, look at what we've seen in this playoff run. Defense with a very timely turnover when you absolutely need a play. Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow, and Evan McPherson making a clutch kick when you need it. Throwing a Jamar Chase long ball because that was basically the offense for 8 weeks. So, I mean, and there's so many other ones. Like I went to that Denver game, so I'll pick that one. Like this team, like we thought it was going to be all in the offense, and there have been times where the offense has needed to step up and be big in games, but that was another game to just show you they can win in different styles. Like I was there, like I thought Burrow like played well that game. His stats were not they weren't bad, but like they weren't anything. Like it was a run the ball game, uh, where we kind of had a landmark of, hey, if we can get a certain amount of points, like we're not scared of the Broncos offense. So like our defense is gonna carry us to this one. And you saw it in that game where I think that was probably the first one the defense single-handedly like won that game. And I mean, now you've seen defense be, I mean, instrumental. Like, where is this Bengals team without the defense where they can just flip the script and play one of the greatest halves of defensive football you'll ever see?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to pick one. I like what you hit on, Scott, with the Vikings game. I think that's a really interesting one because it's so early, so a lot of people forget about it. But I think that's where one, you saw Joe, he didn't play great. So I think that one is less offensive, but I think you're right. That's the way they've been winning. It's defensive. They get the
Mhm.
timely turnover, and then Evan is just nails. So I mean,
And that was when they had him on a pitch count too. Like,
yeah,
so you just saw, like, you had the vision of what this team could be, because I mean we knew he was going to be on a pitch count early and get weaned off it, but to see that week one, yeah.
yeah. To me, I'd say the biggest one to me is the second Steelers game because I'm pretty sure that was the game where we all kind of had that. Okay, Joe's back. This was when Joe had his great game. He had a great game, and he had that run where he jukes out Minka, has the touchdown where he does the tap on his chest. I feel like that was the game where we finally you kind of saw shades of it with the Raiders, but they were so run dominant in that game where I don't think you really saw it as much. But that's Steelers game. I mean, the way you kind of saw Joe take over, and then Chargers game doesn't have his best game, but I feel like that's more the fumble with Joe Mixon, and then you have the bobble interception with Jamar, and then the Niners game you see Joe kind of completely take over until the last second where they take the ball out, and then he has a great stretch up until this point. I mean, if I'm gonna pick one from the playoffs, to me, I honestly think it's the Titans game is the most impressive to me because it's probably the ugliest you've seen the offense look, and you pull out a win with offensive plays right at the end. The defense plays incredible, get you 3 turnovers, which you obviously need, but the fact that Joe makes a play in the biggest moment to get you in field goal range, to have Evan drill it. I mean, to me, it's Steelers game and the Titans game are the ones that I would say are the ones to me that kind of define the season up to this point.
Yeah, and another thing that I think defines the season, it's moments where they fail and you basically know they're never going to make that mistake again. You know, you haven't seen a Joe Mixon fumble since then. Not that he fumbles all the time, but you also see, this is a pass on a coverage that, he wasn't expecting or something like that. It's not happening again. Or some of the defensive plays, they're not being beat twice. It's just it's very impressive, and you that's what good teams do. They're not going to let you beat them twice, and they learn from their mistakes. And it felt like in years past, they never learned from their mistakes. They just got beat by the same things every single time. And I think that is one of the defining headlines of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. And it's not it is on the field play, but not really. But another one just to touch on is like, what was the running gag during the Marvin years? Like, halftime adjustments don't exist. We've turned into, I mean, halftime's adjustments that this unit, like this coaching staff makes, are like have been incredible. Like the majority of the year, there's just so many things of this team that, like, are different than what we've ever seen. Like, there's just you can point to anything. It's like, well, I'll even touch on this, even though it's kind of off topic. Like, what quarterback's coming back from down 18 in the conference championship? It's happened one other time, and it was Peyton Manning. Like, you have a quarterback that's doing this in his second year. Like, there's so many things when you just if you can take a step back and look at this season the Bengals have, it's mind blowing. Like we're gonna know, like regardless, like we're gonna take a step back in like a month and a half and just as an overview of this season be like, whole like what a ride that was. Like even to compare to other franchises, like there aren't tons of times where, teams feel like this and have done things that the Bengals have done.
Yeah, it's definitely been a really special season. And that kind of leads us to where we'll end off the podcast today. The Bengals will play the LA Rams in the Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium. So that's going to be incredible. I'm really excited to watch. I'm pretty sure when we talked about it, I think all of us probably would have rather faced the Niners just because, one, you've already seen them before, and Joe Burrow against opponents that he's already seen is very good. I think the Niners are obviously the worst team considering they lost, but also before I just like the way they matched up a little bit better. I think the Rams are a really talented roster through and through. They have had their struggles through the year. I'm gonna watch some more film in their bad games and then their great ones before we talk next week to kind of see what they do well and what they don't. But what were your guys' takeaways when the Rams won on Sunday night?
Again, and I've said this pretty much the whole season and the playoffs. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you got to beat the best teams. And that's exactly what they have to do. And I think the Rams, the biggest thing is there's a lot of awesome matchups in this. You're going to have Jalen Ramsey against Jamar Chase, Mike Hilton on Cooper Kupp. You're going to have to see, what can this offensive line do against their defensive line. Also, Odell Beckham Jr. is scary. He's got a quarterback that can actually throw the ball. It's going to be really interesting. Eli Apple's probably, Eli Apple, Chidobe, they're going to have their hands full with him. And it's just a really cool matchup. Just real quick, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but, their defense is made up of about 4 superstars. They've got Eric Weddle playing safety. Dude wasn't even playing ball a month ago. And so it'll be really interesting to see. I also see in their defense, they have ability to get really frustrated. And you see, when they give up touchdowns, there's a lot of finger pointing and blaming. And so you get a lead and, you might be able to kind of put them away.
Yeah, I mean, this Ram, I love the point you made about their defense. Like, I think they have a couple solid guys that are more of those glue guys that aren't known so much because they're definitely star power oriented. But like, let's look at the major news of the day, like Tom Brady retiring. What was Tom Brady's last career pass? Mike Evans absolutely burning Jalen Ramsey like barbecue chicken. That guy was toast. Him Jamar is going to be an incredible matchup. And there are so many when you look across the field, but like I wasn't really cheering for either team. Like, I thought the Niners storyline's cool. The only 2 times you've been to the Super Bowl, you played them, and now you have the quarterback you feel's elite that's named Joe. Like, I thought that was going to be cool, but the Rams are a tough team. One thing I want to, and I'll talk more about next week, but no one's really talking about it that much. Zach Taylor's like we got him from the Rams. Like, he's the McVay system, which like we all know. He knows the ins and outs of that offense. Like, the Rams have ran the same type offense since McVay's been there. I mean, they got Stafford and turned definitely, more to the 11 personnel and try to throw it. But I mean, Zach Taylor's going to know that system, and Sean McVay will know a large portion of Taylor's. It just he wasn't in charge, so you don't know as much. But there's so many just interesting matchups in this game that are going to be so fun to think about and how they could unfold, and then just watch it. So there's tons of cool things that you can look to for this Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. And we are going to give you all of the content we possibly can. We're going to try to get you guys some posts on the blog, some TikToks, some tweets. We're all going to be out today. And then we will have another episode next Wednesday where we're going to deeper dive into the matchup, kind of see what we like in the game. But I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. We hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Check out the blog. Just check out everything. We're all over the place. And I'm getting it off this one, guys. So we hope you enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time. Hoo day.